I've been a trucker for over 15 years, driving long hauls across the country. One night I was on a routine trip through the Midwest when I decided to take a break at Rest Stop 22, a place I'd passed many times but never actually stopped at. It was around 2 a.m. and the parking lot was eerily empty. I parked my rig, grabbed a cup of coffee from the vending machine, and settled back into my cab for a quick nap. I awoke to a strange sound, like a faint whispering. I sat up and looked around, but the rest stop was still empty. The whispering continued, growing louder and more distinct. It seemed to be coming from outside the truck. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out, scanning the area. The whispering turned into muffled voices, almost like a conversation happening just out of earshot. I followed the sound to the edge of the parking lot, where I found an old, dilapidated picnic area. The voices stopped abruptly. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized there was no one around. I turned to head back to my truck when I saw a shadowy figure standing by the restroom building. The figure was tall and thin, with an almost inhuman appearance. I called out, but it didn't respond. Instead, it slowly turned and disappeared into the darkness. I hurried back to my truck, locked the doors, and tried to shake off the encounter. As I sat there, the whispering started again, this time right outside my window. I looked out to see the same shadowy figure standing mere inches away, staring at me with hollow eyes. I floored the gas pedal and sped out of the rest stop, not looking back until I was miles down the road. The whispering gradually faded as I drove away, but the feeling of being watched lingered. I later learned that Rest Stop 22 was notorious among truckers for strange occurrences and paranormal activity. Some said it was built on an old burial ground, while others believed it was haunted by the spirit of a trucker who had died there years ago. One old-timer even told me about a time he saw ghostly apparitions near the picnic area, similar to what I saw. He said he avoided that place ever since. To this day, I refuse to stop at Rest Stop 22, no matter how tired I am. I've heard countless stories from other truckers who experienced similar things there. Some reported seeing the same shadowy figure, while others heard unexplained noises or felt an eerie presence watching them. It seems that whatever haunts that rest stop has a penchant for scaring off weary travelers. I've come to believe that there are places in this world that are simply not meant to be disturbed. Rest. Stop 22 is one of those places. Whenever I drive past it, I can't help but glance over and feel a shiver run down my spine, remembering that night and the unsettling encounter that still haunts me. One particularly chilling encounter was shared by a fellow trucker who claimed he saw the shadowy figure standing in the middle of the road as he approached Rest Stop 22. He swerved to avoid hitting it and looked back to find no one there. The figure had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. On another occasion, a trucker reported hearing the faint sound of a truck engine idling outside his cab. When he looked out, there was no other truck in sight, only the dark, empty parking lot. The sounds persisted, growing louder and more insistent, until he couldn't bear it any longer and drove off into the night, leaving the rest stop far behind. These stories have created a legend around Rest Stop 22, turning it into a place of dread for those who drive the lonely highways at night. The whispers, the apparitions, and the unexplainable events all contribute to its eerie reputation. It's a reminder that even in the modern world, there are still mysteries that defy explanation, and places that hold on to their secrets tightly. As for me, I continue to drive my routes, always on the lookout for strange occurrences. My encounter at Rest Stop 22 has made me more aware of the unseen, the unexplained, and the unsettling. It's a story I share with new truckers, a cautionary tale of a place best avoided, especially in the dead of night. Another trucker who had heard my story shared his own chilling experience. He was taking a break at Rest Stop 22, unaware of its haunted reputation. He settled into his cab for a quick nap, but was awoken by a loud banging on his door. When he looked out, he saw the same shadowy figure I had encountered. Terrified, he quickly drove away, but the figure seemed to follow him, appearing in his rearview mirror for miles until it finally disappeared into the night. Yet another story comes from a trucker who decided to investigate the rest stop after hearing all the rumors. Armed with a camera, he hoped to capture evidence of the paranormal. As he explored the area, he felt a sudden drop in temperature and heard the whispering voices. When he turned to leave, he saw the shadowy figure standing in his path. The trucker managed to snap a blurry photo before fleeing. The image showed a faint, ghostly outline of the figure, adding credibility to the haunting tales. Despite these experiences, some truckers remain skeptical. They believe the stories are just a way to pass the time during long, lonely drives. However, those who have encountered the paranormal at Rest Stop 22 know better. They understand the fear and unease that comes from facing the unknown, and they respect the rest stop as a place where the past lingers and the dead refuse to rest. For me, the haunting at Rest Stop 22 serves as a reminder of the strange and unexplainable events that can occur on the open road. It's a testament to the enduring power of ghost stories and the ways in which they can shape our perceptions of the world. As I continue my journeys, I carry with me the lessons learned from that fateful night, always staying vigilant and aware of the mysteries that lie just beyond the edge of the headlights. One of the most unsettling stories I heard was from a trucker who claimed to have encountered the shadowy figure multiple times over the years. Each time, the figure seemed to be more corporeal, almost as if it were gaining strength from the fear it induced. The last time he saw it, the figure reached out and touched his truck, leaving a handprint on the side. The handprint was icy cold and wouldn't fade no matter how much he tried to wash it off. He eventually sold the truck, convinced that it was cursed. Another trucker shared a story about a strange light that appeared in the sky above Rest Stop 22. The light hovered for several minutes before shooting off into the distance. Shortly after, he began hearing the whispers and seeing the shadowy figure. He believes the light was some sort of beacon, drawing the spirits to the rest stop. Then there was the trucker who decided to confront the figure. Armed with a baseball bat, he stepped out of his cab and walked towards the shadow. As he got closer, the figure began to dissolve into a mist, the whispers growing louder and more frantic. He swung the bat, but it passed through the mist, and the figure reformed behind him. Panicked, he ran back to his truck and sped away, vowing never to stop at Rest Stop 22 again. Some truckers have tried to debunk the stories, setting up cameras and recording equipment to capture evidence. While some have recorded strange noises and fleeting shadows, none have been able to provide concrete proof of the haunting. This has only added to the mystery, with skeptics and believers alike drawn to the rest stop in hopes of experiencing something extraordinary. Despite the fear and unease, there are those who feel a strange sense of connection to Rest Stop 22. They believe the spirits are not malicious, but rather trapped and seeking help. Some truckers have left offerings, such as food and trinkets, in hopes of appeasing the spirits and helping them find peace. Whether this has had any effect is unknown, but it adds another layer to the complex and haunting legend of Rest Stop 22. As I continue my life on the road, I can't help but think about the countless rest stops and lonely highways across the country. How many of them hold their own secrets and stories, waiting to be discovered by an unsuspecting traveler? The haunting at Rest Stop 22 has changed the way I view the world, making me more attuned to the unseen and the unexplained. It's a story that I will carry with me forever, a reminder that some places are best left undisturbed. It was a cold, rainy night, and I was driving through a desolate stretch of highway in the Pacific Northwest. The rain was coming down hard, and visibility was poor. As I rounded a bend, I saw a figure standing on the side of the road, drenched and holding out a thumb. I usually don't pick up hitchhikers, but something about this person seemed desperate, so I pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed into the cab, shivering and muttering thanks. He was a young man, maybe in his early 20s, with a haunted look in his eyes. As we drove, he didn't say much, just stared out the window. I tried to make small talk, but he only responded with nods and monosyllables. After about 20 miles, he finally spoke, asking to be dropped off at the next rest area. I agreed and continued driving. When we reached the rest area, I turned to tell him we'd arrived, but the passenger seat was empty. I slammed on the brakes and got out, looking around in the rain, but there was no sign of him. The seat where he had been sitting was completely dry. Confused and a bit freaked out, I got back in the truck and drove to the nearest truck stop. There I told my story to a few other truckers. They exchanged uneasy glances and told me about the legend of the phantom hitchhiker, a young man who had been killed on that stretch of road years ago. Drivers who picked him up reported him disappearing before reaching his destination. I've driven that highway many times since, but I've never seen the hitchhiker again. However, the memory of that night stays with me, and I always keep an eye out for anything unusual on the road. I've even heard other truckers share similar stories, describing the same young man with a haunted look. Some said he would ask for a ride, while others claimed he simply appeared in their passenger seat without warning. One trucker I met told me he once saw the hitchhiker standing in the middle of the road on a foggy night. He swerved to avoid hitting him, but when he looked back, there was no one there. Another trucker said he heard the hitchhiker's voice whispering in his ear, asking for help, even though he was driving alone. The stories vary, but they all share the same eerie theme: a ghostly figure appearing on that lonely stretch of highway, seeking a ride or simply haunting those who pass by. I've come to believe that the hitchhiker is trapped in some kind of limbo, forever trying to find his way home. It's a chilling thought, but it makes me more cautious and respectful of the road and the spirits that may linger there. Another eerie incident involved a trucker who picked up a similar hitchhiker. This trucker claimed the hitchhiker disappeared midway through the journey, leaving behind a chillingly cold spot in the passenger seat. The trucker, shaken, drove directly to a police station to report the strange encounter. A particularly unsettling story came from a trucker who had a dash cam recording of his experience. He picked up the hitchhiker, and everything seemed normal at first. The video showed the hitchhiker sitting quietly in the passenger seat, but halfway through the drive, he simply vanished. The trucker swears he didn't stop or open the door, and the footage supports his claim. The video ends with the trucker pulling over, frantically searching the cab for any trace of the mysterious passenger. Then there was the trucker who encountered the hitchhiker multiple times on different stretches of highway. Each time the hitchhiker would appear more solid and real, but would still vanish before reaching his destination. The trucker began to feel as though he was being followed by the spirit, haunted by the ghostly presence every time he drove that route. He eventually changed his route altogether to avoid the phantom. Some truckers have reported hearing the hitchhiker's voice over their CB radios. They would hear a young man asking for help, only to realize that no one was around when they reached out to assist. These ghostly transmissions have added another layer to the eerie legend, making truckers wary of any unexplained noises or voices on their radios. A veteran trucker shared a story about seeing the hitchhiker in his rearview mirror while driving through a foggy mountain pass. The figure appeared to be running alongside the truck, keeping pace despite the high speed. When the trucker slowed down to get a better look, the figure vanished into the mist. The trucker later learned that a young man had died in a car accident on that very stretch of road years before, adding a tragic context to the haunting. Despite these chilling encounters, some truckers have attempted to communicate with the hitchhiker. One trucker left a note in his cab, addressed to the spirit, offering to help him find peace. The next time he drove that route, he felt a sudden sense of calm and saw a bright light in his mirror, which he interpreted as a sign that the hitchhiker had found his way to the afterlife. Another trucker decided to research the history of the highway and discovered numerous reports of accidents and fatalities over the years. He compiled these stories and shared them with fellow truckers, hoping to provide a sense of closure and understanding. While the hauntings continued, the knowledge of the highway's tragic past helped many truckers cope with their fear and uncertainty. The legend of the phantom hitchhiker has become a cautionary tale among truckers, a story that is shared around campfires and during long hauls. It's a reminder of the dangers and mysteries that can be found on the open road, and a testament to the enduring power of ghost stories. For those who have experienced the hitchhiker firsthand, it's a haunting memory that stays with them, a chilling encounter that serves as a reminder of the unknown forces that lurk in the shadows. I was driving a late-night haul through the deserts of Arizona on a road that seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness. It was around midnight when I noticed a car following me. At first, I thought it was just another late-night traveler, but after several miles, it became clear they were matching my speed and staying close behind. I tried speeding up and slowing down, but the car did the same. My heart started racing as I realized this wasn't a coincidence. I decided to pull over at the next truck stop, thinking it would be safer with other people around. As I pulled into the brightly lit parking lot, the car sped past me and disappeared into the night. Relieved, I parked my truck and went inside to grab a coffee. When I came back out, I saw the same car parked at the edge of the lot. A figure was leaning against the car, watching me. I quickly got back into my truck and locked the doors. The figure approached, and I saw it was a man, tall and dressed in dark clothes. He knocked on my window, but I ignored him, trying to act like I didn't see him. After a few minutes, he walked back to his car and drove off. I waited for a while before deciding it was safe to leave. As I pulled back onto the highway, I kept checking my mirrors, but the car was nowhere in sight. Just as I started to relax, I saw headlights in the distance, rapidly approaching. It was the same car. Panic set in, and I decided to call the police. I explained the situation, and they advised me to keep driving to the nearest town where an officer would meet me. I did as they said, and the car followed me all the way into town. As I approached the police station, the car finally turned off and disappeared down a side street. The officer took my statement and assured me they would keep an eye out for the car. I never saw the car again, but the experience left me shaken. I'm always cautious when driving at night now, constantly checking my mirrors and avoiding isolated stops whenever possible. I've since installed a dash cam in my truck to have evidence if something like this happens again. I've shared my story with other truckers, and many have had similar encounters. One driver told me about a time he was followed for hours by a mysterious car, only to have it disappear when he reached a populated area. Another trucker said he once saw a figure standing on the side of the road, only to realize it was the same person who had been following him for miles. The stories all share a common thread: the feeling of being watched and followed by an unknown, possibly dangerous individual. It's a reminder that while the open road can be freeing, it can also be a place of danger and uncertainty. I've learned to trust my instincts and take precautions to ensure my safety, knowing that not everyone on the road has good intentions. I still love my job and the freedom it brings, but I'll never forget that night in the Arizona desert. It taught me to always be vigilant and prepared for the unexpected. Now, whenever I drive through that stretch of highway, I keep a close eye on my surroundings and make sure to stay in contact with other truckers on the radio. It's a lesson learned the hard way, but it's one that keeps me safe on the road. One trucker shared a particularly chilling story. He was driving through a remote area when he noticed a car following him. After several attempts to lose the car, he decided to pull into a truck stop. The car parked a short distance away, and the driver, a man with a hood pulled low over his face, got out and started walking towards the trucker. Before the man could reach him, the trucker grabbed a tire iron and confronted him. The man stopped, stared at the trucker for a moment, then turned and walked back to his car, driving off into the night. Another driver had a similar experience, but with a more sinister twist. He was followed by a car for miles and decided to pull over at a well-lit rest area. The car parked a short distance away, and the driver got out, holding something in his hand. The trucker, feeling threatened, locked his doors and called the police. The man banged on the truck's windows, trying to get in, but fled when he heard sirens approaching. The police found no trace of the man or the car, but the trucker was left deeply shaken. Some truckers have reported finding strange objects left on their trucks after being followed. One driver found a bloody handprint on his door, while another discovered a small, sinister-looking doll on his windshield. These incidents have added to the fear and paranoia among truckers, leading many to take extra precautions when driving through remote areas. Despite the fear, some truckers have tried to uncover the identity of the stalker. A few have managed to get partial license plate numbers or descriptions of the car, but the stalker remains elusive. The stories have created a sense of camaraderie among truckers, with many sharing tips and strategies for staying safe on the road. One of the most unsettling stories involved a trucker who found himself being followed by a car that seemed to appear and disappear at will. He would see it in his mirrors, only for it to vanish when he looked directly at it. This continued for miles, until the trucker finally pulled into a crowded truck stop where the car disappeared for good. The trucker never found out who or what was following him, but the experience left him deeply unnerved. The legend of the roadside stalker has become a part of trucker folklore, a story that is passed down from one generation of drivers to the next. It's a reminder of the dangers that can lurk on the open road and the importance of staying vigilant and prepared. For those who have encountered the stalker, it's a chilling memory that serves as a constant reminder to stay safe and aware. Even as new stories and encounters emerge, the mystery of the roadside stalker remains unsolved. Some believe it is a single individual with sinister motives, while others think it could be a network of people targeting truckers. Whatever the case, the stories continue to circulate, keeping truckers on edge and fostering a sense of community and mutual support among those who travel the lonely highways at night.